All right, so tax season, huh? It's officially here for 2025.
It is. Kicked off on January 27th. I bet the IRS already has millions of those returns, too.
It can feel a little overwhelming, right? Like, where do you even begin? What's changed? What do you need to know?
Totally get that. It's like wandering into a maze sometimes. But that's why we're doing this deep dive today, to help you find your way through it. We're going to break down the essentials, those deadlines that can sneak up on you, any big changes this year, and how you can file without it costing you an arm and a leg, plus how to avoid some of the common traps people fall into.
Right, we're doing the homework so you don't have to. And we went straight to the source of the IRS and got some expert opinions, too. So to kick things off, let's talk about that big looming deadline. When are these 2025 taxes actually due?
Mark your calendars for Tuesday, April 15th, 2025. That's the D-Day for getting those 2024 federal income tax returns in. Usually that's the date, unless it happens to fall on a weekend or holiday. The IRS might shift it a bit then.
April 15th, got it. But, life happens, right? What if you're still waiting on some forms or just need a little more time to get your ducks in a row? Any way to get an extension?
Absolutely. There's a lifeline for those who need it. If you're scrambling for time, you can request an extension. You'll need to file something called Form 4868 with the IRS. Think of it as hitting the pause button, officially. If they approve it, you get until October 15th, 2025 to file your return.
Okay, that's a breather for sure. But there's a catch, isn't there? Doesn't mean you're off the hook entirely.
You got it. This is super important. An extension to file doesn't mean an extension to pay. Uncle Sam still wants his money by that original April 15th deadline. It's like, you can ask for more time to finish your homework, but your tuition bill is still due today. If you think you're going to owe taxes, you really got to estimate that amount and pay it by April 15th, even if you've got the extension. Otherwise, you're looking at penalties and interest, even with the extra time.
Yeah, penalties are never fun. So let's paint a picture here. Someone misses the deadline, owes money. What kind of damage are we talking about?
Two main penalties you need to know about. First, there's a failure to file penalty. This one can bite. It's 5% of those unpaid taxes for every month or even part of a month that your return is late. And it can go up to 25% of what you owe. They hit you hard because they want everyone to file on time so they can figure out how much money they're getting. Then there's the failure to pay penalty. It's a bit gentler, 0.5% of the unpaid amount every month it's late. Might not seem like much, but it adds up, believe me.
No kidding. Those percentages really drive the point home. Okay, let's switch gears. Let's say you're actually getting a refund. Happy days. But you file late. Are there penalties then?
Good news on that front. If they owe you money, they won't penalize you for being late. It's their money they're holding on to after all. But the quicker you file, the faster you get your cash right. There is a time limit, though. You generally have 3 years from that April 15th deadline to file and claim your refund. So for this year, that means April 15th, 2028. After that, it's gone. Uncle Sam keeps it. So even though there's no penalty, get that refund ASAP.
Makes sense. All right, so we've covered the scary stuff, deadlines and penalties. Let's talk about how to actually do this filing thing. What are some of the easiest ways for people to file in 2025?
Oh, there are a bunch of options these days, really convenient ones too. One that a lot of people use, especially if their taxes aren't too complicated, is online tax software. Those names you always hear, TurboTax, H&R Block, they walk you through it step by step, make it pretty easy. And they often have features that help you find deductions and credits you might not even know about.
Yeah, those online tools are super popular. What about if things are a little more, tangled? Like you're self-employed or have income from different places?
If you're dealing with a more complicated financial situation, maybe you're self-employed, have investments, or just a lot going on, it's a good idea to call in the pros. CPAs, certified public accountants, or enrolled agents, they're the tax gurus. CPAs have to pass all sorts of exams and licensing. Often they're specialized in the tricky stuff. Enrolled agents are federally licensed, they've proven they know their taxes, and the IRS actually recommends going with a trusted pro. They even have a directory on their website so you can find someone legit in your area. Be careful of what they call ghost preparers, though. These folks, they prepare your return, but don't sign it, or put their preparer tax identification number, their PTI, and that PTI is a unique number from the IRS for all paid preparers, and if it's missing, it's a huge red flag, could mean they're shady or even up to something illegal.
Okay, good to know. Now, for those watching their budget, are there any ways to file for free? Legitimate ones, I mean.
Oh, absolutely. The IRS has got your back there. They want to make sure everyone can file, even if money's tight. One big one is IRS Free File. If your adjusted gross income was $84,000 or less last year, you can use this. It's free tax software from companies partnering with the IRS, and it's available right up until that October 15th extension deadline. They also have IRS free file fillable forms. It's basically the online version of those paper IRS forms. No income limits for this one, but it's probably better for those who know their way around taxes already.
That's awesome. Helps out a lot of people. Any other free options out there?
There's one that's getting bigger every year, Direct File. In 25 states right now, you can file your federal taxes directly through the IRS online, completely free. They've been expanding this pilot program, and it's in both English and Spanish, works on computers, tablets, even phones. They even have live chat support in both languages. Go to directfile.irs.gov. You can see if your state's in and if you qualify. It's a big step toward having a truly free option straight from the source.
That's fantastic. Now, what about those who prefer to get help in person?
Totally. There are some great programs run by volunteers. Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, or VOA2, helps people who make $67,000 or less, those with disabilities, and anyone whose first language isn't English. These volunteers are IRS certified. They can do your basic tax return and file it electronically, all for free at different spots around the country. Then there's Tax Counseling for the Elderly, or TCE. They help anyone, but especially folks 60 and older, particularly with questions about pensions and retirement income. And for the military, there's MilTax, run by the Department of Defense. Free tax prep and e-filing for military members and some veterans. No income limit there.
Wow, so many resources. It sounds like no matter your situation, you can find help. Okay, so you've hit that file button. Now, the waiting game begins for that refund, hopefully. How long does that usually take?
Generally, the IRS wants to get those refunds out in less than 21 days. That's if you e-filed and chose direct deposit. E-filing is the way to go. It's fast and more accurate. But remember, that's just the typical time frame. Some returns need extra attention, could take longer, so the IRS says don't rely on a specific refund date for big purchases or bills, just in case.
Right, better to be prepared. I've also heard there can be a delay for some refunds early in the season.
Yeah, there is. It's because of the PATH Act, protecting Americans from tax hikes. The IRS can't issue refunds for folks claiming the Earned Income Tax Credit, EITC, or the Additional Child Tax Credit, ACTC, before mid-February. This is to give them time to double-check things and prevent fraud. If you filed early and claimed these credits, you can start checking the Where's My Refund tool on the IRS website or their IRS To Go app around February 22nd. They're aiming to get most of those EITC and ACTC refunds out by March 3rd if you use direct deposit and everything's good with your return. And speaking of Where's My Refund, it's the best way to track your refund. You just need your social security number, filing status, and the exact refund amount you're expecting. And again, direct deposit is the safest and fastest way to get your money. Paper checks can get lost, stolen, all sorts of things.
Definitely makes sense to go digital. So to file correctly and get that refund smoothly, what documents do you absolutely need before you even start?
Accuracy is key here. You don't want delays or problems with the IRS. First things first, report all of your taxable income. To do that, you've got to wait for all those income and information documents. That means your Form W-2 from your employer shows your wages and taxes withheld, and any Forms 1099 that apply to you. There are different kinds. They show different income, like interest from your bank, unemployment benefits, dividends, pensions, and, importantly, money from gig work or those online platforms.
Speaking of which, that Form 1099-K has been in the news a lot, especially for people selling online. Can you explain what that's all about?
Yeah, the 1099-K is something to watch out for if you're selling stuff online or getting paid through apps like PayPal, Venmo, that kind of thing. This form shows the total payments you got through those platforms. For 2024, if you made $5,000 or more and had more than 200 transactions, you'll probably get a 1099-K. But, like Professor Tim Rupert from Northeastern University said, it's not all taxable income.
That's an important point. So, getting that form doesn't automatically mean you owe taxes on the whole amount.
Right. What Professor Rupert emphasizes is it's only the profit that gets taxed. So keep track of all your expenses related to those sales. It's really important. If you want to deduct something, you need proof. The IRS is getting a much clearer picture of that income flowing through those platforms now, so you got to be extra careful about showing your actual profit. Keep good records of what you spent, cost of goods, shipping, marketing, all those business expenses. That way, you can calculate your taxable profit accurately. And Professor Rupert mentioned that even if you didn't hit that $5,000 and 200 transaction threshold for 2024, you might still get a 1099-K if the platform you use has a lower threshold. And heads up, this is changing. That threshold for the 1099-K is going down, way down, in the next couple of years, to $2,500 in 2025 and then just $600 in 2026. So lots more people selling online, even small amounts, will probably get this form. Keep those records organized.
Wow, yeah, big change coming up. Thanks for breaking that down. So Professor Rupert said not a lot of huge changes this year, but some important ones. Besides this 1099K thing, anything else big for 2025 that people should know?
Professor Rupert specifically mentioned the IRS is pushing their direct file software. As we talked about, it's now in 25 states, up from just 12, and they're adding more types of income and deductions that it can handle. So it's a good, free option for more and more people who want to file straight with the IRS. Maybe not for every situation yet, but it's getting there. So while the whole tax code might not change drastically very often, the ways to file and what you need to report, that's always evolving.
Good to stay on top of that for sure. Now, besides reporting income, are there any credits or deductions people should look into to save some money?
Oh yeah, credits and deductions are your friends. They can really shrink your tax bill or boost your refund. The IRS wants you to know about these, and they highlight a few in particular. The child tax credit for families with qualifying kids, the earned income tax credit or EITC, a big one for low to moderate income workers and families. And then there are credits for college and other education expenses like the American Opportunity Tax Credit and the Lifetime Learning Credit. Professor Rupert said these are areas where people often miss out on savings. He also cautioned that while the EITC can be a real help, the rules for qualifying are pretty complex. So make sure you read everything carefully and meet all the requirements. The IRS looks at EITC claims closely because historically there have been a lot of errors, so accuracy is crucial there.
Definitely worth checking out, but make sure you really qualify. Now let's talk about the dark side of tax season, the scammers. What should people watch out for?
Be super careful, especially with unsolicited contact phone calls, emails, texts, anything that pops up out of the blue promising a huge refund. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And never ever give out personal or financial info if someone demands it or threatens you, especially if they say they're from the IRS. The real IRS won't call you out of nowhere and demand immediate payment, especially not with gift cards or cryptocurrency. They won't threaten arrest or deportation if you don't pay right away, and they won't stop you from asking questions about what you owe. If it's legit, they'll usually start with a letter in the mail. And if they're being pushy or aggressive, that's a red flag.
Solid advice. What about online scams? Anything specific to watch for there?
Definitely. Watch out for fake websites. Scammers are good at making sites that look almost exactly like the real IRS website, irs.gov. Always double check the address in your browser, make sure it's really irs.gov, not misspelled or slightly different. And then there's identity theft. That's when someone steals your info, your social security number, and uses it to file a fake return and steal your refund. If you think that happened to you, the IRS says file your return as soon as you can, even on paper, and then go to their identity theft central page on their website, irs.gov identity theft. They'll tell you what to do. They'll also give you an identity protection PN, an IPPN, to help prevent that from happening again.
Man, that's scary how good they've gotten at these scams. Sounds like staying skeptical and double-checking everything with the IRS is the best policy. Now, speaking of the IRS, what kind of online tools do they have to help people this year?
The IRS is actually getting better at this, making things easier online. One good one is your IRS individual online account. They keep adding stuff to this. You can see info from your recent returns, get an IPPIN, view transcripts, sign forms, set your communication preferences, get IRS notices electronically, make payments, even set up payment plans if you need to. And they just added a banner on the account homepage that warns you about scams and links to the real digital notices so you can check if what you got is legit.
That sounds much better, more user-friendly. What else have they done to improve things online?
They're trying to make those notices you get clearer too. They redesigned a bunch of them last year, and they're doing more in 2025. The new ones are easier to understand, and you can see them electronically in your online account. And because lots of people are using phones and tablets these days, they're making more of their tax forms mobile adaptive, so you can view and fill them out on your phone. And they've even added a save and draft feature to some forms, so you can start, save it, and come back later.
Oh, that save and draft is handy, especially if you're doing it on the go. What about quick answers to common questions? Do they have any virtual help options?
Yeah, they do. For 2025, they have voice bots for anyone calling about refunds. You can talk to them in English or Spanish. They'll tell you the status of your refund once you confirm your identity. They've also got online chatbots on their website. You can either choose from common questions or type your own. They use fancy tech, natural language processing to understand what you're asking and give you an answer. Look for a Chat with Us button, usually at the bottom right of the page.
It sounds like the IRS is really trying to make things easier online, which is good news for everyone.
Definitely. They want people to file accurately and on time and to make it less stressful.
Well, this has been a deep dive for sure. We covered a lot. Let's recap the key takeaways for our listeners.
Okay, so April 15th, that's the deadline. If you need more time, get that extension, Form 4868, but remember, it's just for filing, not paying. Check out those free options, IRS Free File if you qualify, and Direct File, which is in more states now. Get all your income documents together, W-2s, all those 1099s, and watch out for changes with the 1099-K. Look into tax credits and deductions, but make sure you're eligible, and be extra careful about scams. And lastly, use those IRS tools like your online account and those virtual helpers.
Awesome summary. As you're getting ready to file, remember, the more you know, the less stressful it'll be. Check out the IRS website. They have an interactive tax assistant. And if you want personalized help, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program is a great resource. Now think about your own situation. Are there any specific questions you have or things that make your taxes a little more unique? It's always better to do a little extra research if something's not clear or if your situation is unusual. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the 2025 tax season.